And welcome back to the Baseball Development Hub podcast. My name is Trevor Powers, and I am joined, as always, on the podcast by Dan Galati. Dan, we are recording this Sunday morning after Thanksgiving. How are we doing, and did you enjoy the holiday?
Yeah, Thanksgiving's always one of my favorites. Nice to kick off the holiday season and have a nice long weekend, eat a ton of food, and watch football. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, we were flying around a little bit more, obviously, being across the country and then back south and moving around, so it wasn't as relaxing as I usually prefer on Thanksgiving. I prefer that Friday to just be like sprawled out like a starfish on my couch and then just not even move for from when kickoff is at 12 because I'm a college football guy, not an NFL guy. So I prefer my Friday football slate
Yeah,
over my Thursday football slate and sprawl out and enjoy that. So we didn't get to do as much of that. But again, as always, the holiday season has its own unique little spot for me of like it's just like a comfort thing of like I hate the cold weather, I hate that it gets dark early, but there is something about the holiday season that's just like, oh, let's relax for a little bit. I enjoy Christmas time. We're obviously closer to that, so um it was a fine Thanksgiving, busy but fine.
yeah. The stretch between Thanksgiving and Christmas is always enjoyable too. It moves quick.
Yeah,
Things are a little more quiet. People are, it's like people are taking time off, not taking
mm-hmm.
time off, coming back. There's always like
Yeah,
things planned, so it's always a good. That's a good like 3-4 weeks. And then we don't need to get into it, but after Christmas, that stretch, brutal. That's the desert.
brutal. Brutal. Yeah, that is a rough area for anybody, but it does get us closer to baseball season, which if you're listening to this, you probably are somebody who would be really excited to have it be February, whether college baseball, you're starting your season, whether you're a fan and you're ready to watch your favorite team, whether you're a high school player and you have a little bit longer, whether you're a parent and you want to head out and watch your kids start playing baseball. So that stretch of January and February, mostly because of the anticipation for baseball season, is part of that equation. But that kind of brings us exactly to what we want to talk about, and that's the off season, handling the off season the right way, primarily the weight room, but there's a ton of different ways that go into handling the off season, ensuring that we're prepared for springtime when it comes time to step on the field and start competing for jobs when we get back to the spring. And the way that I always used to tell our guys specifically was spots are won in the winter, right? Whether you're a freshman that has a good fall or even an upperclassman that has a good fall and you showed well, that spot's earned in the spring, right? In the winter, right? If you go home and you eat too many pastries and you sit on your couch and you enjoy football a little bit too much, you just lost all the momentum you gained in the fall. And then I always use the example of, and I know you would probably have this, there was always a freshman who ended up playing in the spring who stunk in the fall, right? Always, always, always. And like there were questions about whether this kid could actually play at this level. And then in the spring, he came back a different player, more confident, more prepared, steps on the field and is ready to go. So, Dan, when you kind of had that conversation with your guys and kind of when you look at what the winter is for baseball players and how to properly handle it, what were the kind of the key points that you always made sure to emphasize?
You have to do something, and that's like the bare minimum, right? Is like something. You can't just go home and do nothing because it can be tempting, right? Especially for younger guys who aren't necessarily used to 24/7 baseball, which, you come in and you have a full fall season and you probably feel like you need a little bit of a break. Once that whatever your fall window looks like, whatever level you're at, they all look different for different levels of what you're allowed to do, but it's pretty much an everyday thing. And sometimes that can, if you're not used to that as a younger player, as a freshman, then that can be a little bit of a drain. And like just surviving that first fall is kind of like a big deal. Um, but when the holiday rolls around, I remember just like the kind of, as a coach, you're a little bit worried always about guys that like you're like they just need to do anything. And you and I talked about it, like the bare minimum of just like if you lift every day, like if you don't take any swings in the cage, if you don't pick up a baseball, you're not setting yourself up great. But if you can at least get in the gym, get in the weight room, lift, follow your protocol for, your off-season weight room protocol and get stronger and continue to build that foundation, like you'll be behind probably a lot of people when you get to back to practice in the spring, but we'll at least be able to kind of build off the foundation you have and catch you back up and ramp the other things up. Again, it'll be at a slower pace than everybody else, and you still will be behind a little bit, but it's not as like catastrophic as the guys who you come back and you just look and you go, he didn't do anything, like nothing. You didn't do anything over winter break, and like you said, just like there's always a freshman who stunk in the fall and plays in the spring, there's always the kid who has a great fall and then is like, I put the work in, I had a great fall, I'm set up to play. They come back and it's like, you're unplayable. And like that's the unique thing about the baseball calendar, truly, is that you have a fall season and then they go home for 5 weeks, and you don't really see them because you're usually wrapping up before Thanksgiving. They'll go home for that week. They come back, they have a couple weeks of, so I guess it's really more like 6 weeks. They come home or they come back to campus. They have finals. You're not really doing anything with them. You might be checking in with them, meeting with them, but they don't have any responsibilities as far as baseball is concerned for those couple weeks. I remember like thinking, oh, this is what a regular student feels like. This is cool. And then they go home for a month and you have to just kind of cross your fingers and be like, hopefully they're doing what they're supposed to do.
And I think the biggest thing too is like you're mentioning, that's the minimum of expectations, right? Is to check the boxes of at least lift every day, move your body as much as possible. The big thing to emphasize there is there are things that you can do over the winter that make you worse legitimately, right? Like I think that's the thing that our perspective from the levels we coached at, from the levels we play at, makes a huge difference because it's really is the wild wild west. Like they basically head off into the ether and you just hope they come back and they're the same thing. Like at the very like the thing you lose sleep on, like again, we've seen it, bodies change, physical traits change, guys come back slower, guys come back weaker, guys come back and just don't look anything close to what they left. And 4 weeks can make a huge difference. And I think that's where we can kind of touch on whether you're a high school dad, a high school coach, or a high school athlete, or small school college coach, small school college athlete, is just having that conversation of like, we need to make sure at the surface level, like you maintain what you are, right? And later on in this episode, we'll get into how to maximize what you are. But I think that's a really big thing, is because you may think that, oh, if I skip this or skip that or eat this or eat that or drink this, all of those things, if I go out to the bar with my friends from home, whatever it is that becomes a routine of your off season, and you start skipping the bare minimum of expectations, it's noticeable and it happens fast. Like it happens very, very fast, and it will be noticeable right away the second you get back on campus. And I think that's a really, really big piece of the puzzle, is understanding that this off season, as much as it is, we came on in this episode and talked about how much we enjoy the holiday season because you can relax and you get to spend time with family and you get to do all these fun things. And it's so slow paced and it's not this, hustle and bustle of what typically the year is. That can infiltrate athletes too, right? Where it's like, yeah, I do want to enjoy Thanksgiving weekend and maybe I have pie on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then sit on the couch all day Sunday. And I haven't moved since Thursday and I ate a lot of food and all those things like that. That can set you back. Like those decisions you make, and if that becomes a consistent decision an athlete makes, it's noticeable. And I think from our experience, again, we don't have 20 years in the business like the people we worked for. I guarantee they have stories on stories of guys that have come back from the winter who were impressive in the fall, and just be like, that's a different athlete, and he's never going to touch the field for us.
Yeah, and stories the flip side too, right? There are guys like I know we're painting it like a horror story a little bit, but there are definitely plenty of guys who come who take their winter the way they should be, and they make strides in the winter, and you come back and you're like you mentioned the freshman who stunk in the fall and comes back, but there's other guys too where something clicks over the break and maybe they needed time away and they figured something out and they come back, and a lot of it comes back to what's your motivation, right? Like if you're someone who needs your coach standing over you every day and that's how you get motivated, I feel like that, I'm not blaming these guys like that. That would be hard then to go home and say you're on your own for 6 weeks. We need you to do something. But if your motivation you're the type of person who needs to be motivated by someone standing over your shoulder, and you don't have that, you're not going to put in the work. And also, that month always goes way quicker than people realize. Like you look at it and you're like, wow, I have like 6 weeks a month, and it's like, yeah, okay, but we're talking about like you get back from Thanksgiving, then you have like finals to worry about, so you're still doing that. It's a little bit easier when you are on campus though. For those couple of weeks, you got teammates to motivate you, but then as soon as you go, like those 4 weeks or 5 weeks that you have for winter break, they go quick. So if you're like, oh, I'm gonna take the first couple of days off, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, my family's traveling for Christmas, and then oh, but I want to go out with my friends for New Year's. It's like you just ate a third of that breakup, and now you have like a lot less days to prepare.
Mhm.
So I think it's always just important because I remember thinking too, like worrying that sometimes we would go late into the fall and thinking that some of these guys might be a little burnt out now, but and like now you have to try and stress to them that like this isn't a time off, like
Mhm.
this is honestly more important than your fall season because it's the lead up to the season, right? Like, and that's what makes the baseball calendar so weird to me, is that like when we were back coaching, we would have 2-3 weeks before when we got back on campus from when we were traveling to play our first games. It's not enough time to get anybody prepared in anything.
No. And that's where I will say, like, not that it's a gripe. It is a gripe of like the college baseball calendar is not friendly to development, right? And what I mean by that is we have these very short windows of time to develop the right way of like getting in the weight room, allowing guys to grow naturally, physically mature, take the time, because it's one of the reasons why, like, in for college guys like early in their career, I'm kind of anti summer ball unless you're going to the Cape Cod, Team USA, or the Northwoods. Like unless you're a legitimate dude who's going to sign on for a legitimate like prospect driven league, I think you're better off spending the summertime just like adding 12 weeks of mass, because we don't have those opportunities in the quote unquote off season, right? Because we ramp back up, we evaluate in the fall. Now that rosters turn as much as they are, we don't even have as much understanding of our guys to say, okay, you need X, Y, and Z so you can take the fall off and not throw, right? Because that kid might be a new player for you, right? And you need to evaluate them and you need to see them in competition because we're flipping rosters each and every year. So it's so fascinating because the calendar is not conducive to development, but we have these opportunities where we can make strides, right? Like it's such a weird thing. Like I actually think the Division 3 calendar has the best calendar for development because you do your 4 week fall for your evaluation, and that's all. Well, now it's 5 weeks, your 5 week fall for evaluation, and then you have nothing, right? So those guys are able to get in the weight room. They're able to develop physically. They're able to step back from like, I have to prepare to go 3 for 3. I have to prepare to pitch 6 innings and all those things, because that is a major hindrance on physical development, right? I've always said like we had one guy specifically who for 4 or 5 years, he played 5 years, he was a COVID kid. For 5 years, it was this kid needs to add muscle. This kid needs to add muscle. This kid needs to add muscle. And when he left, hey, exit meeting after the spring, you're a really good player. If you add muscle, you're going to be a power hitter. You're a legit dude, like all conference dude, yada, 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 yada. And it's like, oh, he's playing summer ball. And I'm like, and I remember looking at our head coach and go, he ain't going to add any muscle. Go, why? I said, because he cares too much about going 3 for 4 tonight. And when you care about going 3 for 4 tonight, you ain't deadlifting 450 pounds because you ain't going to feel good when it comes to rotate and have to hit 85, right? Like at the end of the day, like that matters. So like guys are really, handcuffed on their physical development when we have such an extended competition period, right? We compete through the spring. So our guys, if anything, lose mass. And then we go to the summer and we play in the Northwoods where it's scorching hot and we're dropping 20 pounds and we're playing 75 games. We just lost even more physical development. And then we come back in the fall and we got to see that guy compete again. Like at the end of the day, like I think that this needs to be broken up in a much better way. Whether those guys play summer, we take the fall off, and then we ramp up the season come November, right? And give those guys, hey, you can stay on campus. I don't care. Coaches have access, things like that. You don't have to go home for the holiday. Whether it's something along the lines where we give a true summer off, but we allow training periods where guys are able to be on campus, like the fall sports where they come to campus early, and then you kind of have training periods, and then we ramp up for competition in the fall, and then the winter's kind of a buffer period. I don't know exactly what it is, and that's kind of more of a tangent for the NCAA. And if you're a high school dad or athlete, you're probably like, what does this have to do with my son? All I know is the more you play, and for youth sports, we play so much. Just understand your kid is not chasing numbers or getting stronger in the weight room if he has to compete that evening or that next day or that next 2 days. When there is competition and there's results, 3 for 3s, 6 shutout innings, all of those things the week of, you're not pushing your body to the extent that's actually going to cause physical development and strength development, because nobody's getting under a squat rack at the weight that's going to challenge themselves when they have to compete later that week, is the grand point of my tangent there.
Yeah, and I think that we can do a whole another episode on like the landscape of college athletics and the calendar. But with everything else that's changing and going on, like the calendars are not forefront, and who's in, yeah, because that is truly the predicament. And I think the really good players and the really good programs figure out a way to manipulate that calendar and figure out a way to schedule it best for their guys' needs, and they have guys that know how to motivate themselves, know how to get better in situations, whether some of them may be able to understand what summer ball is, and go out there and still get better while doing it, using it as a tool to, especially for position players, like go get 4 at bats, right? Like that's important. Is it as important though in the summer, to your point, as getting stronger? I don't believe so, right? Like, so can you have the mindset of I'm going out here to get 4 at bats so that I'm seeing it, and I'm keeping some of that rhythm, and not worry about what the results are of that bat? Can you work on things and tweak things, and can you still be focused in the weight room? Because to me, as you said, like getting in the weight room is like the most important thing. And when can we fit that in? Now the fall is a big part of that as well. But to your point, you're getting evaluated by your college coaches a lot during the fall. So I don't know how much effort you want to give on those days. Sometimes, like I got to pitch in. I played with guys or coach guys. It's like, yeah, but I'm pitching in an inter squad this weekend. It's like, yeah, right. You're trying to win a job in the fall, but I need you to, like, what's more important today is I need you to be in there max squatting.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll pitch an inter squad inning this weekend, but like process over results, or whatever the calendar says. Um, it makes it difficult, and you kind of have to pick and choose a little bit. And each guy kind of you have to understand what each guy needs, and each guy needs to understand what they need. And it can get tricky because it really isn't. There is no good calendar set up for baseball, and it's interesting that you said that. Like I would love the idea. I'm sure the coaches would. I would love the idea of being able to get guys on campus in the summer for a couple weeks, get them back. I think basketball does this, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the rules of basketball at all. Like when they're allowed to do things, they're weird because they're a 2-semester sport, which is weird. Um, So I guess if you skip whatever time you technically have after your season, and put it in the summer, you can get guys on campus, guys or gals on campus earlier for that. I don't know, but I would love something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm probably in the non-traditionalist for my perspective on summer ball. Um, for so long in baseball, it's been you gotta have guys play, and I just don't like. Again, do I understand? That was where when I was having those conversations, our head coach was like, "Listen, I get what you're saying, but that's assuming that these kids do everything we expect that you would do, and they don't. So sometimes the better battle is to ship them off to summer ball because at least they're
Without
doing
question.
something, right? Like, and I see that, and 100%. But summer ball leagues are dying, and there's a lot of fear about them dying. And I'm not one of those people that's sympathetic towards that idea because, again, like I said, I look at what professional baseball players are able to do. And if we're expecting guys to add mass strength, right? Like 90% of the issues, and this kind of ties back to like maximizing the offseason, 90% of the issues that I see with majority of good but not great baseball players is they're not strong enough. Right. Like every player that I've ever coached, evaluated, things like that, it's like, would be great if he added 20 pounds. Would be great if he added more bat speed. Would be great if he added more velocity. And the reality is our calendar in college sports is not conducive to that type of development. Again, you can't add 20 pounds playing 120 baseball games a year. You can't. And then playing, having a competition period in the fall. It's just never going to happen, right? And even unless you're going to sacrifice your fall evaluation period of your guys and then do all that in the spring. And now there are schools in the country that can, in fact, do that. The schools that are in Southern California, Southern Florida, right? That can like be like, hey, we're going to hold off. We're going to use our months, our time at the end of the fall, send our guys home with a plan that's more conducive to preseason, and then ramp them back up coming the spring. There are schools that can do that. But in New Hampshire, they can't do that, right? Like because they need to use their warm months in the fall to do that so that those guys can be evaluated. So it's just the calendar, the baseball calendar in general is not conducive to development, right? Even high school athletes, even, showcase athletes, it's like you're evaluating a kid and he's 160 pounds and 6'1" and he looks good, he moves well and all these things like that. It's like, man, if that kid was 180, he's a dude. And it's like, well, why isn't he 180 pounds when he's 6'1"? Like 180 is pretty easy to have 6 foot on a 6'1" frame. It's because he's playing all spring in high school. He's playing all summer because he thinks that's the best way to be evaluated with no structure. It's throw on Monday, throw on Thursday, throw on Sunday, right? Like no structure, which is kind of goes back to our Legion point of like, let's create a league that plays in a consistent calendar where you can get pitching rotations and get lineups set for a week in advance and playing true 9 inning baseball at night during the week and all the things that come with that. And then in the fall, he's again chasing this, whether he's a two-sport athlete, maybe he starts football season. And again, you're not adding that 20 pounds that you need, or maybe he continues his evaluation through showcase ball of trying to get that college opportunity because again, that's the only way that people believe you can be recruited is through playing baseball and getting better. And then high school athlete ends up in the same position that college athletes are in. November rolls around, the field's finally shut down, the sun finally goes down early enough that we stop playing baseball, and they look around and they go, I haven't gotten better. I'm probably worse than I was on March 1st when we started games. I'm probably worse. And it's so funny to sit there and look at it and be like, as much as like we complain about baseball IQ not being good enough, and that does come from playing games and things like that, the reality is like guys aren't getting better, not because of knowledge, not because of education, not because of anything, just because of opportunity and time on the calendar and time for, because anytime there's competition tied in at the end of the week or things like that, you are not pushing yourself in the weight room to the boundaries that need to be pushed to be better, to develop.
Yeah, and I just think it's hard to know what's best. And like I think there's a lot of anxiety around that of like what should I be doing to get better and to maximize my potential or my skill. And like you said, I'm when is the best time to get in the weight room and lift heavy? Like what are you altering? What are you giving up? I think that's why you also sometimes see guys who redshirt or don't get an opportunity early in their freshman season, especially for pitchers. Like they take such a leap because you're not getting in, you're not playing. So you can kind of use that redshirt year, that time where you're not contributing as a time to get stronger in the weight room and kind of figure things out. And obviously getting comfortable and everything helps with that too. But then you like look up and like, then those guys always tend to then go away and pitch in summer ball because it's like, oh, you haven't pitched all year, go get some innings in. They have a good summer ball. And they come back in the fall and like, man, he's gotten a lot better, right? Like that, you see that happen all the time. And I just think it's hard to know what the best way to go about it is. What I do know is that this time period right now that we're in currently is so important to
Yes.
maintaining and strength development and whatever you did in the fall. If you want it to carry over to the spring, like you better be working your butt off right now. because other people will be. Like that's the other thing. Yeah, sure. Like you could, no one else on your team is, or no one else that you compete against is working right now. Then yeah, you could take the day off too, I guess. But you know, there are guys who really do take advantage of this time frame, and sometimes it's nice. You know, there's also the guys who get away and feel more comfortable sometimes, and they do get a lot better during this time frame because they're motivated, they're self motivated, they want to get in the weight room, they want to get a lot stronger. Something clicks for them. Then whether it's at the plate or on the mound, and they come back and they're better off for it. And those are always kind of the exciting. The ones that are exciting are the ones who come back and you're like, oh, he figured something out while he was gone. He just needed to get away. So
Mm-hmm.
can he continue the upward trajectory of where he's at because of the work he put in from Thanksgiving through New Year's?
Yeah, and to kind of build off that, it's like it's not rocket science, right? Like you don't have to be in there doing calisthenics and an elaborate mobility, right? Like you don't have to be around pro guys that and evaluate their routine. When you're 18 to 22, right, you're still coursing with enough testosterone that like you can make legitimate strides in a 4 week period, right? Like that if you take care of business and you do what is necessary and push yourself, right? Like you can't just coast through it, push yourself in the weight room, have access to a gym, have access to a facility that allows you to do what's necessary and go and get your work in, right? Like whether you're a self motivator and you can hit on your own, or whether you have a coach that you trust from the past that you want to work with and do what you need to do based on kind of the evaluation that your coaches had given you on what you need to work on. Like it's just about making sure you check those boxes on a day-to-day basis, right? Like doing something on a daily basis and pushing yourself just a little bit more each and every day, and having the foundation to give yourself the opportunity to have something click in the off season that allows you to come back in the spring better, right? You come back 10 pounds heavier, and not in a good way, not in a bad way, right? Because that happens. Thanksgiving, Christmas, pastries, cookies, all those things, they add up quick, man. And we've all seen it. Beer, New Year's Eve out with your friends, all of those things. You compound and lose those 3 weeks, and you're not pushing yourself the right way, you will come back 10 pounds heavier in a bad way, and it will impact your production and any progress that you made in the fall. But if you come back 10 pounds heavier in a good way, right, you can utilize that to be better in the spring. Again, like it, strides can be made in the off season time if you have, now again, access to resources is a big piece of that, right? That was the thing that stressed us small college coaches out the most, is even when me and you were playing, which is not that long ago, it's pretty long ago now. It's like facilities weren't on every street corner, and you didn't have a good relationship with every facility in the world. I would come home from school and it was like, thank God I had a gym, because I didn't swing all off season because I had nowhere to swing. I had no one to throw with. Like that's it. Like I didn't like my, like I could drag my brother out to have catch, but yeah, he's like, dude, no, like, you know what I'm saying? My dad couldn't catch either at that point, right? Like it's like you'd be thrown into a net if you're a
Yep.
pitcher and
Oh
things
yeah.
like that. Like you have to maximize that. That's the beauty of the access to facilities that we have now. Is like I know kids that come home from college and it's like, yeah, I got a key and I can go in whenever I want. That was like the cool part of like as I got older, I built a relationship up with somebody I trusted, and it was like, here's a key to the facility, go hit. But that became go hit off the tee. I had nobody to hit with when I would go after work or things like that. Like, and again, like not to poo poo tee work, but it's not getting you better. Like
Yeah.
you're better off getting under a squat rack than spending an hour hitting off the tee, right? So all of those factors coming into play that nowadays, like if you have access to a facility and whatever, again, money is a factor in that. A lot of times, not everybody has the opportunity to have somebody they trust that'll let them hit for $50 unlimited on the off season and things like that, and also lift there's people out there that you can do those things with. But having access to a facility, having access to training centers if you're a pitcher, right? Like the being able to ship guys off to 4 weeks to a training center to ensure that they're throwing and progressing and getting better and getting stronger. All of those things are now benefits of being in the year 2025 into the year of 2026 that maybe in 2020 2017 we just didn't have as much. But I think those are all things that as an athlete, like you really, really need to make sure that like you're checking that box, because as much as you can develop, as much ground as you gained in the fall, all of those things can be null and void. Like you said, I'm going to take a week off because my body's sore and I haven't played this much baseball. I haven't thrown this much because of the fall. It is a lot. Like that is the biggest step forward that college pitchers specifically take, is like that fall season is like, dude, this is a lot of practice. It's a lot of throwing. This is a lot on my mental. This is a lot, like everything is structured and day to day. So you take a week off. You shouldn't take a week off, but let's say you do take a week off, right? And then week 2, you do something, but you take it light because you're building back up. And then week 3 is Christmas, and maybe your family travels, and they travel 2 days before Christmas, and then they leave 2 days after. You don't have access to a weight room. You're doing maybe push-ups and sit-ups, but that's about it. So you're not really getting better. And then, like you said, New Year's. Oh, I come home because I came home on the 27th. I want to go out with my friends on New Year's. I get banged up. That means I don't work out on New Year's Eve. That means I don't work out on New Year's Day. And guess what? You're back on campus January 4th.
It goes quick. It goes quick. It really does. And it comes down to kind of like how much do you care is kind of the question that I always ask. Like, do you care, and how good do you want to be? Like, if you don't care and you don't care about really what your role ends up being on the team, and you don't care about how good you can get, and you're not, maybe this is the end of the line for you. And, I think this happens sometimes at lesser levels where it's like, I'm not here to try and be a professional baseball player. And then that's fine. And your motivation, and you can go home and you can have a winter break like you just suggested, and not get any better. You probably get passed up. But how good do you want to be, and how important is it to you? Because as you said, I think that having facilities now on every street corner is awesome for this, because like everybody really, it's hard to have an excuse now. Because a lot of these facilities, not only do they have somewhere where you can throw and hit with other people who are going to be in there doing the same thing, but a lot of them have weight rooms too. So you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And even, I would like to stress though, even if you do not have a facility to go to, like a gym and a net to throw, like, you know what I mean? So you can find a way. And again, it goes back to how bad do you want it? If you really want to become the best player you can be, and be an impact person for your team, then you'll find a way no matter what the circumstances are, right? You'll be outside throwing in the cold. You'll be in the weight room every day. If you don't care as much, you might go throw a couple times out in the cold, and you'll lift consistently and you'll get better, and that's fine. Again, like, that's the bare minimum. If you don't care at all, you're just not going to do nearly enough. And there's always the guys that take like the first 3 weeks off and think that they can get a week to prepare as well. And that never goes well either. And it's just you have to be consistent. I know, again, it's tough because you just got, like, it feels like it's year round and it's a full-time job, but that's what playing a college sport is if you want to be good at it, and especially baseball.
Well, you mentioned it there. If you want to be good, and as small school coaches, right, like small college coaches, like that was a realistic conversation that some guys were okay with their role on the team, and that's okay, right? Like it has to be so much easier to motivate guys in the SEC, because it's like, dude, like you're being paid to be here. B, your future is tied to this, right? Like, if you want to play in the MLB or not, okay, go home and do what you need to do, right? Whereas like we would have some guys that are like, dude, like I'm the 3rd string first baseman. I'm a junior, and I love it. Like like I just enjoy being with
Teammates
the boys.
love
And it's like,
me.
like, and so having that moment of reflection of like, how good do I want to be and how much do I really care is very important, right? It's very, very important to understand your off season and what you're going to do. But if your goal is to be the best version of yourself, right, in any way, shape, or form, whether that's in your role as a 4th outfielder as a young guy, whether that's the superstar who wants to utilize their really good season into kicking up a level and then potentially playing professional baseball, if that's your ultimate goal, all of those factors that come into play, you have to be able to handle this time of year like a professional, right? Like it needs to be 365 days a year in some way, right? Like, and by 365 days a year doesn't mean you have to work out 365 times, throw 365 times, hit 365 times. It's more about making the mature decisions that don't set you back multiple days, right? Being able to be consistent enough that you're continuing to progress. So on Thanksgiving Day, you might not work out, you might not do all those things, but you make up for it on Friday, right? You make smart decisions on Thanksgiving. You put yourself in a position to still get up and pound the pave the next day and get out and get to work, right? Or maybe even Thanksgiving morning, you're with your family and you're somewhere, you're not home with your home gym. You do push-ups, you do sit-ups, you throw into a net when it's cold outside just to get yourself an opportunity. How many athletes have we known that bring their glove and a ball on vacation? Right, like
Yep.
that is
Disney
a bring
World.
plyo balls in a vacation just to move their arm. And I saw that you had something to say. I do want to emphasize this is something too that I always emphasize in the off season. Weight room is priority number one. Moving in your position is priority number two, and like a not like a large priority number two, but like to me, I always felt like did you swing or did you not swing is more important than what you did swinging the bat, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
as a pitching guy, like I think you could say like I would rather have you just ensure that you're moving your arm than having
Mm-hmm.
this progressive long toss
Mm-hmm.
routine where you get out to 250 on Monday and then you're back into 120 like just I need you to do that motion every day in some way, shape, or fashion. And then we can, as long as that thing is ready to rip in some
Yes.
way, right? We'll get you figured out because that is a thing. Like kids want to think that they're gonna like we're gonna make changes in your routine when you get to campus, and we're gonna build you up to the season with whatever we have time frame to get to. We start competing, but if you haven't rotated with a bat or you haven't moved your arm throwing, that's a lot harder to regain. Whereas, so that's why I say like
Oh, with
an
throwing, it's
elaborate weight room.
impossible because
Yeah.
you're now if you're in a situation where you're um, treated properly, I guess I would say, um, you now have to get built back up completely from scratch.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So while everyone else who even just at the bare minimum of moving their arms on a consistent basis can now start to adjust that routine to get ready for the season, you're now 2 weeks behind. And if you were considered a candidate to maybe be a starter, it's like for not for the first month of the
Yeah.
season or 3 weeks of the season or whatever, because you're not going to be ready to go out there and give any consistent um, innings. So
Mm-hmm.
you better
Yeah.
move your arm.
Well, 100%. And like so many people think like I need to be on a track, man. I need to be on this, like,
Is great.
which is great if you have access to those things. But if you just have a net and a baseball and a set of plyos, like I think it would be just as
You're fine.
beneficial to, yeah. Like if you came back and you told me you just plyoed every day and threw lightly into a net, like I got you. That's what, yes. Sign me up
Paired
for
with
that.
the weight room though, right? Like if
Yes.
that's all you did, I'd probably
Exactly.
be able to. But
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
your point is like
Paired
paired
with the,
with the weight room
yes.
4 to 6
Mm-hmm.
times a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we're in great shape.
We're in great shape. Yeah, when I'm same with the hitting side. Like, of course, I want guys hitting off machines. Of course, but I'm realistic enough to realize that guys are probably feeling good and making sure they're hitting, rockets and all those things like that. I'd rather have you ensure that you're comfortable swinging a bat and it hasn't been 6 weeks since you picked up one of those things. So whether that's T, whether that's flips, and that's why I always say, "Oh, welcome back, boys! All those flippies and T works are useless when we crank up the machine." Just like yelling at guys, "Oh yeah, I know all you did all off season was flippies and T works, boy. Get back in the cage!" Like all this stuff like that would get guys. But as long as you're rotating, paired with a legitimate weight room, like legitimate chasing numbers, getting stronger, I'd sign up for that every day because we're going to get you ready for the season. We don't play day one. We don't compete day one. We understand there's a build up to that, but you have to. It can't be unnatural to do your move, whatever it is,
No.
throw or hit.
Yeah, and the guys who I was just going back a couple minutes ago, the guys who don't and are happy with their role, don't feel like they need to work. Just know you're still putting stress on your coaches. So if you like your coaching staff, give them a little something because those guys,
Yeah.
your coaches will even worry about you. Sometimes it's like you're always worrying about the bottom of your roster trying to bring it up. Then you are sometimes the guys who have done what they're supposed to do at the top of the roster and continuing to make them better. Because I think if you could, everyone could be close in preparedness and talent. You'd have what we call depth, which is always extremely important.
Let's be honest. 40-man roster, 1 through 7's easy. 32 through 40's easy. It's 7 through 32 that we all lose sleep about. Like, how are they? Like,
Yeah.
that is a
I mean,
flip of the
32,
coin.
yes, yeah. I would almost say that like 8 through 40 is the tough ones
The
because
tough
it's
one.
just like how do we get all of these guys to look like 1 through 7?
Yes,
And
100%.
and and to your point, like maybe I don't need to make 45 the
7,
fifth
yeah,
best player, but I would like him to be
25.
20.
Yeah, no doubt. And like, that's the one. Like, the easiest guy. This is what my favorite thing that as I've talked to coaches and realize sometimes coaches will dedicate so much time to like the number one player on like their number one hitter. And it's like when I was coaching, it was like that guy was so easy to coach because it was like you just like you're good, right? So I don't have to coach you as much. But like from a motivational standpoint, like I don't even have to tell you to do anything, but we spend so much time and effort on those guys that want to give, and want more
Yes.
and more and more and more and
Yes.
more. And it's like, that is such a bad allocation of your resources and time because that person's going to do like, you could be like, hey man, go hit for an hour, and they'll go hit for an hour. You don't have to like oversee anything. Whereas like the other guys on the roster need oversight. They need more coaching. They need more motivation. They need somebody in their corner telling them to get back out there and go in for another round, whatever it is, right? Like that's such a funny coaching adage to me, is like so many times it's like, well, I give the top guy on my roster. And I'm not saying coaches say that, like I'm just saying from actions more than anything, of like coaches dedicating so much time to their three best hitters. And it's like, those guys don't need a kick in the butt. Like those guys are the easiest guys to coach because it's like, hey, I need you guys to go hit off double machine. I'll be down in 30 minutes. And you get down there and those guys are hitting velo with banger curveballs, swinging and missing in the cage. And it's like, yeah, that's what I expect because you guys are really good and really motivated. Like, you know how to get better, right? Whereas
Yeah.
like hitter 7, you go down there and he's still hitting flippies. And he's like, dude, like, we got to get better, right? At some point. So all of those things that are factors that I think are hilarious. But really important to make sure with the holidays, again, as much as we want to relax, as much as we want comfort, as much as we want to enjoy and see our friends, right, that we haven't seen in a while because we went away to college, and we want to hang out with our high school friends. We want to go out for New Year's, whatever those decisions are. We have to understand that this 4-week stretch, like this is where seasons are made at the end of the day. Whether you're going to play in the spring or not is not determined in the fall. To me, the fall is borderline useless because if you don't handle this time, it's all 3
It
steps
can
forward,
be.
4 steps back. It can be. It really, really can be. And we've seen it again. Like I don't know of any time in the spring, and this is the last thought. I don't know of any time in the spring that we've sit there and had a guy struggling who wasn't looking very good. It wasn't looking like this, and be like, no, we're putting him in the roster because he was really good in September. Like we're putting him in the lineup because he was really good. It's what have you done for me lately? How has he handled? Like we go into live at bats in the spring, we're keeping your results from the spring, right? Especially as a new guy. For veterans, yes, like this guy was really good for us last year. He's built up equity with us, all those things like that. Yeah, like those conversations do happen. But like I've never had like a new guy come in, have a really good fall, and then stink in the preseason and be like, but he was really, really good in the fall. He needs to play. It's like, no, he stinks right now. Like that's
It's like,
it.
oh, he did nothing all break.
Yes, exactly. Like that is the response from coaches. Is not like you don't have that leash that's able to be
It,
extended of it. The first response is he obviously did nothing all off season.
yeah, there's always that like gasp moment. You get to that
Yeah.
first or second practice and like you just throwing bullpens or whatever, you just see someone and just like, oh, you didn't do a thing.
And if you think that coaches don't know,
Dang.
they know. They know. Like again, like we can see you swing, we can
Oh, we're
evaluate your
weird, right? We watch
body.
we
Yeah.
watch everything you do for
Yeah.
from the time you start recruiting them and then you get them on campus and they're in your program in the whole fall. You're watching them
Yep.
every day, how they walk, how they move, how they throw, how they look.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can tell when something's
A
right
miss.
or wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you
100%.
hope so. The goal is to be
Yes.
able to do that just by their gait, right?
Yes.
Just by like how they
100%.
walk. Uh-huh.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Well, it is the holiday season, so hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving, ramping up for Christmas, but it is a time in the baseball calendar that is weird, but it takes a lot of maturity, takes a lot of discipline from the athlete itself. There's no oversight from coaches and things like that, so making sure that athletes are checking the boxes, making sure we're having the right conversation with our athletes to ensure that they're checking their boxes, all of those are very important times of the year for this time of the year, quite frankly. So being able to make sure that we have that conversation is super important with us turning the calendar to December today when this episode comes out. So if you like what you hear, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow on all socials. We have a ton of developmental conversations every day on social media, having those long form videos, short form videos, ton of trips planned as this episode's on a release. We're going to be at Clemson, South Carolina, fun trip to Louisiana, potentially in the books, a couple more trips here and there that are going to be a lot of fun. So super excited to ramp up through December and January. And that'll do for this episode of the Baseball Development Hub podcast.